Hi, welcome back to the next part in this Logic Pro tutorial series with me, B1. The last part we looked at audio editing and creating a sampler patch with some drum files. This part, what I'm going to look at is creating what's called a melodic patch in a sampler, and then look at a few more functions inside the sampler. So going back to the drum sampler and changing some of the different functions that are inside. So, creating a melodic patch. The idea is that you take a musical sound, some chords or some notes, and put them in a sampler, play them back, and basically you get a more pitch shifted version of the instrument. It gives it a slightly different effect. The most kind of common example is if you listen to a lot of old kind of rave tunes, 90s hardcore. A lot of the instrumentation in that is done using samplers, and that's how that kind of music got its overall effect, really. So, what I'm going to do for this, I'm going to start off, I'm going to go to instrument 3, and I'm going to create an EVB3 organ, sorry. I'm just going to use the default sound. I'm going to change my project tempo to 85 BPM. And I'm just going to play a C major chord. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bounce this out as a WAV file. So I'm just going to press Command and B. So I'm going to save it as B3 organ, C minor. It's PCM WAV 16-bit. And I'm just going to bounce that out. And I'm going to mute this now. And on instrument 2, I'm going to open a new EXS24 stereo sampler. Open up the edit window. I'm going to go to my Finder, find my B3 and load it in. And you can see, unlike with the drums, this doesn't give me any options. It just loads the sample straight in. Loads it across all of the keys. But one thing that I do notice is that it's changed the pitch. So the pitch should be C3, because I did a C major from C3. But every time I press one key now, it will play the chord. So if I press C3, that's my original chord I played. So if I go down to G and F, then you can hear that the sampler gives it just because it's pitch shifted the chord down, you get a slightly different effect, which is similar to the old rave style. So if you put some like different samples in there that are kind of more synthy based, then that's the effect that you'd get. So I'm not going to change any of the functions on this. I've created my basic melodic patch. I'm going to export my sampler instrument as B3 organ C minor. Save that. So that's now saved to my project folder with this, the sampler patch and the sample. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to explore, going back to my drum sampler that I made in the previous tutorial. I'm going to go into edit mode and look at changing the sampler a little bit. Excuse me, got a bit of a cold. So I can see that from my previous messings about that I've already edited this, but I can talk you through it. On the original version, all the volumes would have been set to 0 and all of the outputs would have been set to main. So if you're looking at your screen fresh, all your volumes will be 0 or your outputs will be set to main. What I've done is I've created a multi-output kit. So I've selected the 5 main samples that I use in my drum kit, which are a kick drum, a rim shot, an open, semi-open and a fully open hi-hat. And I've assigned these to their own individual outputs. If I select output, I can see I've got main at the top, and then I've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I've got 5 stereo outputs, and I've got 6 mono outputs. So because I'm using drum sounds, I want the outputs to be mono. So I've selected my kick on 11, my rim shot 12, and then my hi-hats 13, 14, 15. And then for this one, what I've done is I've selected my closed hi-hat, my open hi-hat, sorry. I've gone to edit, copy, and then I've pasted, so I've created a copy of this track, or of this sample, sorry. And I've assigned that to output 16, but selected reverse. So it's playing from C2. So that's my open hi-hat. And then if I press C2, I've got a reverse variation of that hi-hat. What I've done with the reverse hat is I've left the pitch to A minor so that I get a different sound. If I change it so that the pitch matches the key, it sounds okay. But if I change the root note to a couple of keys lower, then you get a variation in tuning of the sample. So all I'll do is, once you've set all of those up, is press save, close this, and then go to my mixer. So if I go to my drums here, because I've selected multiple outputs, I click and hold on the XS24, move across and select multi-output. Now, the only change here is I can see it says MO now instead of just the XS24. And if I move down the channel, I can see I've got this little plus sign. If I keep pressing the plus sign, this brings out all of those individual outputs. So I can see I've stereo output is the main output of the sampler. Then I've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then I've got my individual mono outputs that I've selected. So if I press the keys, I can delete these stereo ones because I don't need them. Turn the volume on that down to 0 because there's nothing coming out of the main. And I've got my drum kit spread across different channels. What that means in real terms is I can program all of my drums on one MIDI track, so I don't need loads of different samplers. But I can then go in and I can EQ and compress and add effects individually to the samples that are going to play. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly make a little beat. It's just a 1-bar rhythm. So I've got my basic drum beat. It's looping over 4 bars, but I'll take this first region, move it to the end, turn my loop off and go in, and I'll just change this last open hi-hat to the reverse. So if we have a quick listen to that. So go in and edit the positioning of it. So it's given me a nice little loop, and I've used the functions within the sampler. And then what I'll do is I'll audition my organ that I've got in the sampler now. So I'll just record myself a quick little patterning. Just reset the beginning of my track. So I'll double click to go into the MIDI region, which opens up in a piano roll down here. I personally don't like that. So by pressing Command and 6, go into Windows, piano roll, Command 6, it brings up the piano roll editor full screen. And what I'm going to do is simply just select all of the notes, click on here and select 1/16, and apply corrective quantization to my melodic patch, as so. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do what's called corrective MIDI editing, because I want to make sure that all of my MIDI regions don't overlap. So I'm going to select the scissors and simply go through and chop the ends off all of the MIDI regions that are overlapping. Delete those. And that is what's called corrective MIDI editing. So I'm going to close that, and I can hear that the organ sample, it sounds like it's starting late. So if I go back to my sampler, go to edit mode, double click on the sample, and it will open up in the sample editor. So I'll minimize that. And if I zoom in, I can see that there's a gap, or there's a bit of silence at the beginning. So I'm just going to change the start of the region by dragging that to where the wave begins. It'll be set up to snap to 0 straight away, so it'll automatically snap. I can close that. Get my edit window back up, close that and press save, so it's saved the edit. And I've got my organ playing smack on the beginning of the beat. So there you go. That is how you create a basic melodic patch. That's how you use some of the slightly more advanced functions on the sampler. So the volume settings, the output settings, the reverse, and that's how you access the audio edit window or the sample edit window via the sampler once you've put your WAV files in there. I'm going to get rid of that MIDI region and this instrument because I no longer need them. I'm going to save my tutorial and back it up. So I've done a save as tutorial part 4, ready for the next tutorial. Replace what's already there. And I hope you enjoy that. And the next one will be about quantization and about audio editing a little bit more. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Look out for the next videos coming soon.